Come be a part of Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics with your host, Dr. Ed Holliday. Hear the voices of liberty speaking all across America. Doc Holliday provides thought-provoking interviews and commentary about the issues and actions that are afflicting this country and what we need to do to get America back on track. Get fired up, get inspired, get on board with Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics right now.
And here we go.
And once again, that's the sound of rock cracking. You've got Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics right here on webtalkradio.net. That's webtalkradio.net. Glad to have you. And once again, wow, there's a lot of politics going on, and rocks are splitting in the world of politics. We've got some far left-leaning socialist, Marxist that are pushing the agenda in the old Democratic Party, what was once called a Democratic Party, which really now you could call it the Socialist Marxist Party, as far as I'm concerned, with the policies they're pushing. And we've got a show today that's titled Free Speech in America is Fading Away. How important is our First Amendment right to free speech? And how is it going now? It's not going very well. And we're going to talk about that on today's show. This is something that we've talked about before. We've had Dennis Prager. We've talked about him before. Him and Adam Corolla did a movie last year called No Safe Places. So this movie, No Safe Places, really explored that. We'll play a little bit clip from the movie trailer, and we're also going to dig into what happened with President Trump last week. Facebook decided to keep their ban on former President Trump. So a lot to get into. Before we do, there's two things I want to get into. I told you we'd keep you up on Arizona and as they audit the election of last November. Let me just play you this clip, and I want to play this clip about the Arizona election audit. And then also we have got to talk about the worst miss on unemployment numbers since 1998, some people are saying. Maybe the worst ever, some people are saying. Well, last week when they announced the unemployment numbers, everybody thought they would go down. We'd have about 1 million jobs added. Well, it didn't happen that way. So keep listening. First, here's this clip from Arizona with the audit of last November's presidential election. Take a listen. This is Maricopa County, Arizona.
Maricopa County has now responded that they don't have that second password to get into the administrative functions of the machines, that only Dominion has that, which is kind of stunning to us that Maricopa County doesn't have complete access to those election machines. But they've told us that they don't have that second password, or that they've given us all the passwords that they have. They've also told us that they now can't, as they promised a couple of weeks ago, provide our subcontractors with the virtual access to the routers and hubs and other things over at the McTech, Maricopa County Tabulation and Election Center, as was part of the subpoena. So, yeah, the passwords to get into the administrative functions of the machines and virtual access, as they promised they would give to the routers and the hubs.
Because from what you're telling me, it sounds like Dominion, a private company, actually has more control over the election than the county supervisors. Is that accurate?
That's what it sounds like to me. So, yes.
Do you understand what he's telling us right here? The director of the audit, and they're finding out they can't get the password because Maricopa County never had the password to get into the administration part. And who is running the election? Obviously, Maricopa County does not have the last say on the figures. They've allowed Dominion to control the numbers. That's what we're saying. That's what we're hearing. Dominion has control over the numbers, not the officials of Maricopa County. So far, that's what we're finding out. So let's keep watching, keep our eyes on Arizona and what's going on in the audit. It's it should be embarrassing to the people of Arizona to know that the elected officials who they elected are not in charge of the largest county, over 2 million votes coming out of Maricopa County, Arizona. And the elected officials have given the whole entire service being able to know who won and who lost. They've given the entire security of the election to the private company called Dominion, and they're saying there's no password. They do not have the passwords to know the final facts and figures. That's what's coming out of Arizona as we speak. And so let's see what goes on as they continue to dig into what happened last November. Now, I told you there was awful numbers last week. One of the biggest misses. Everyone was expecting about 1 million jobs to be added. And we heard that, like we do on the first Friday of every new month. And here we rolled into May. We got the unemployment numbers, and they were horrible. Everybody thought America, the economy is getting better. The unemployment numbers would go down, more jobs added, and they were expecting a big rosy picture. And instead of 1 million jobs added, we only added 266,000 jobs. The unemployment rate rose to 6.1%. It was an embarrassing, awful number. And what did our president have to say about it? Here's President Joe Biden. Take a listen.
This morning we learned that our economy created 266,000 jobs in April. It hadn't been adjusted again yet, but that's what it says, 266. And listening to commentators today, as I was getting dressed, you might think that we should be disappointed.
Joe, are you laughing about your dismal performance? Are you laughing about your policies being put into place? We're finally seeing what happens with Joe Biden's policies. We look everywhere. It says help wanted, help wanted. You cannot get a seat in restaurants. Half the tables not being used because they don't have enough workers to meet the demand. Something is wrong in America when CEO after CEO comes to the forefront and said, what do you need to get this economy going? They said, we need workers. And unemployment rate is 6.1%, and it went up, and we should have added 1 million jobs and only added 266,000. It's a dismal record because of the policies. Why are people not working? Because they're making more money sitting at home collecting unemployment. In many, many cases, there are pockets in America where there's probably some people hurting and they need unemployment insurance help. But there's so many people I know where I live. Every restaurant has a sign begging for workers. Every small business says, we are hiring. How can a business proceed and make money and fulfill a payroll mission to help the entire community when people are dependent on unemployment checks and they don't want to work because they make more not working and collecting unemployment than they can getting a job? Something is wrong in America. This is a house of cards, this economy. We had a show about it 2 or 3 weeks ago. Go back in the archives and listen to it. It's the strangest economy where the stock market's up high, record levels in the stock market. Money is pouring in the trillions of dollars from the federal government, and President Biden and the Democrats want to print more and more money, and everybody knows what happens as you print more money. The money in your pocket becomes worth less and less, and they're saying we don't have to worry about inflation. Have you tried to get a used car? Have you tried to get a new car? Have you gone to the grocery store to get some food? How about building a house? Have you had your dream home, and for 20 years you say, oh, good, the loans now, the mortgage rates are so low, let's go build a house. Then you see the lumber price, it costs you 3 times as much to build for the lumber now than it did a year ago, and they say there's no inflation folks, we are living in an economy we haven't seen before, because we have not had this many stupid people in charge of the economy. Stupid politicians have been elected. What does that mean for the voters? Well, we go back to what we said in Arizona. Did the people really elect Joe Biden? Look at the numbers. Why won't they let people look at the votes in Georgia and Michigan and Pennsylvania? And thank God there's some people in Arizona who have said, at least let's look at the ballots, let's look at the tally, let's see if everything was on the up and up. And that's what they should do in every state where there's questions. I don't care if it's Republican, Independent, Democrat. If you have questions, that's why we hold ballots for 18 months after the election. Look at the ballots. But what I'm saying is, good gracious alive, we got people who have no clue on how to run an economy. I remember when Nancy Pelosi, when the Republicans passed the tax cuts in 2017, and she said it would ruin the economy. She said it would devastate the economy. And what happened? We had the most robust economy our nation has ever known under the tax cuts of President Trump. And not only that, but cutting the regulations. And now Joe Biden is laughing and about people saying what's, unemployment. It was, the report was so awful. And he said he was laughing about it, that people were concerned. Well, I'm concerned because we're building this house of cards of an economy that will not stand. It won't. You can't keep paying people to do nothing when we have an economy that's begging for jobs. We can't get all cylinders running. It's like a car of 8 cylinders and only 4 cylinders are running. You cannot get maximum production. You cannot get maximum strength out of that motor when you only have 4 cylinders running. And what does that mean for down the road? What does that mean for the schools and the cities and things that do depend on, like the military, depend on our government being able to depend on the work of the people? The government has no money. It gets it from the taxes. And then Joe Biden wants to increase the taxes. And what does that do? It curtails, it dampens, it makes the economy slow down. Wow. And they say we elected these people? And the socialists are praising what's going on and pushing for more. I'm not calling Joe Biden a Marxist by any means. I'm not calling very many people in the Democratic Party Marxist. But Marxists are in the Democratic Party. Marxists have not run a presidential candidate. Why? Because they are getting what they want from the Democratic Party. It's heading in the direction they want. They want revolution. They want to say to start at year 0, destroy everything in history, and we'll start at year 0 they'll have a new name. It won't be the United States of America, because it will cease to be a country. We have no southern border as it is now. Wow. This is really, really concerning. And we have got to talk about free speech. So let me take this break right here and just remind you that you're listening to Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. You're listening to us right here on webtalkradio.net. And I do want to say we are trying to contact Alan Dershowitz, the Harvard law professor who I've grown up with, hearing him from all sides debate the issues in such a way. His intellect is just, nobody else has a mind when it comes to legal matters as Alan Dershowitz. And he has been steadfast on freedom of speech, on trials. And he did help out President Trump in during the impeachment proceedings, not because he was a Trump fan, but because he's a fan of the U.S. Constitution and knew it was a hoax, as a railroading job by those who hated President Trump. So We are working to see if we can get him on the show. I would love to ask him some questions like you. If you got some questions, you can email them in if we get the chance to speak with Alan Dershowitz. So we're working on that. And now, let me also remind you that as you listen to Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics right here on webtalkradio.net, we do have a book out. I say we. I wrote a book along with Dr. Alveda King and Dr. Alex McFarland. It's called Bedrock Truths. Bedrock Truths. If you don't have that book, we'd love to get one out to you. We'd love for you to order it. You can go to www.docholliday.org. Holiday with 2 L's in it. We'd love to get that book out to you. And I want you to listen to this commentary from actually CNBC talking about last week's Facebook decision. They had a so-called independent panel trying to decide if President Trump should still be banned off Facebook. So take a listen.
What Facebook, Twitter, and Google have done is a total disgrace and an embarrassment to our country. Free speech has been taken away from the President of the United States because the radical left lunatics are afraid of the truth, but the truth will come out anyway, bigger and stronger than ever before. The President, the people of our country will not stand for it. These corrupt social media companies must pay a political price and must never again be allowed to destroy and decimate our electoral process. So there's the reaction from the former president. Interesting here that he's lumping together Facebook, Twitter, and Google all at once in his reaction to the Facebook decision, also saying that the social media companies as a whole must pay a political price. And you can bet that this statement from the president is going to set sort of the political tone now for the response from Republicans on Capitol Hill, who are very much sort of in the political obligation mode toward President Trump here, because they feel that he controls their base to a large degree. And so therefore, you can imagine that a lot of Republicans on Capitol Hill will take their direction from this statement in terms of this effort now from the former president to make the social media companies pay a political price. Not clear what he means specifically by that, but clearly the former president, not happy about this decision, and add him to the list of other people who are not happy about Facebook's decision today, guys.
Well, if you're a red-blooded American, meaning you bleed red, white, and blue, I don't care if you're liberal, I don't care if you're even a socialist, I don't care if you're conservative, independent, Democrat, Republican, but when it says there's a lot of people disappointed with the decision, if you believe in free speech, you should be disappointed with Facebook's decision. Now, some people can't stand President Trump, and they think it's a victory that he can't be, his voice can't be on Facebook platform. But it's not a victory for free speech. If they take away President Trump's, these same people could take away President Biden. They could take away Vice President Harris's voice. Do you not understand what free speech means? It means you listen. You don't have to sit there and listen to someone. You can get up and walk away, but they have the right to free speech. That's what has made America great. And there have been issues that go to the Supreme Court. No, you cannot holler fire in a crowded theater. We understand there's some things, there are limits, but you cannot stop free speech without changing the Constitution, and we need free speech in America, even though we don't want to hear everything people have to say, and you're not obligated to sit and listen to it, but you're not supposed to stop it and suppress it. When you suppress free speech, it will break down barriers, and that's what's made America great. Other countries will suppress free speech. It's not written into the Constitution, and therefore this can be limited by the government in control. But go back about liberty, the pursuit of happiness, that we are guaranteed in our rights in the Constitution. And freedom of speech is a fundamental right. And let's listen to this. This is the clip from, I told you last fall, they came out with a movie called No Safe Places, and about the vanishing free speech that's happening in America. It was comedian Adam Corolla and then Dennis Prager of Prager University. When I say that, he has short clips on conservative ideas that are on YouTube that have been limited. He's been banned on using some short videos because they didn't agree. YouTube did not agree with his view. So therefore, he's not given free speech. So I want to take a listen to this. It's about a 2-minute clip of the trailer of the movie. Of course, you can't see the scenes, but just listen. Listen to this.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used against you.
You are not listening. I want your job to be taken from you.
A protest has turned violent in California, Berkeley.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things one could say we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
The only way we separate the good ideas from the bad ideas is to be free to say whatever we want about them.
Anything you say will be used against you.
There's no free speech for fascists.
Your posts on Facebook, Twitter, and social media will be saved to shame you.
Kevin Hart has stepped down from hosting this year's Oscars.
Anything you say that we don't like will be used to shut you up. You can't be funny.
It's creating an atmosphere of fear and repression, and it's gonna bust.
You cannot think differently.
It makes it difficult for you to learn from other people.
Isn't it spooky that we're having this discussion?
You can't challenge us.
Kids grew up dipped in Purell, playing soccer games where they never kept score.
There is no debate.
The type of diversity that they hate is diversity of thought.
We reserve the right to be offended by everything.
No university should ever create a safe space.
You're not going to protect people, and so the best you can do is to make them strong.
It bothers me for the young people who are being deprived of anything that could open their minds.
You have the right to remain silent.
Will speech be completely banned, free speech banned in America? Someday soon. We're fast approaching that day. Where freedom of speech is not talked about. It's not allowed. What do I mean by that? Well, just like in the movie, and we didn't see the movie, or No Safe Places, we heard about in there, and you just like on campuses, university campuses, if a conservative, in many cases, wants to come speak, there's outrages, there's people standing up and shouting down where they are not allowed to speak at a podium, or not allowed to speak when there's a congregation of people, because they yell and scream and they don't want to hear the words. We've heard about debates, and we've heard about talking, let's hear both sides, but there's a group that does not want to hear anything that goes against their thinking. They want the power. They want to be in control of what people can hear. They want to know that their position is the only position that can be heard. And we're seeing that with Facebook. We're seeing it with Twitter. We saw it in so many ways with President Trump during the election last year. People did not want his message coming across. What happened about Hunter Biden? The story broke about what he'd done in trade deals in China, but nobody would cover it except for Fox News. They completely looked the other way, even when there was the computer that was found, a laptop computer with Hunter Biden and doing things that were illegal, having an illegal gun, and then had all kind of just nasty things on his laptop. And they had that even during the Trump impeachment trial about him being in the Ukraine, and yet nothing was talked about. Nothing was talked about. Nothing was even mentioned by the FBI, even though they had it. They knew that what Trump was talking about in the Ukraine had a basis for what Trump was saying, about the Biden family, and they refused to bring it up. And where is free speech? Where is free speech in America today? It's hurting. It's sick. And you heard about what's happened on college campuses. It doesn't have to be a college campus. But if you don't want to hear another side, you don't stamp it out. You don't not allow it. You can get up and walk away. You don't have to listen to it. Tell others not to listen to it. But you don't put the tape over somebody's mouth. You don't have that person arrested and put in jail so that you can't hear him. It's an amazing thing where America has moved to, and I hope we can get Alan Dershowitz on our show to talk more about this. But it is very dangerous, because if you have the power to stop my speech, if you have the power to stop President Trump's speech, you have the power to stop other people's speech. That's not the America that battles things out and comes to a consensus. It's one side wanting to control and overpower and just completely demolish the other side. It wants it rendered no power. It wants to suck the power out of any system so that only one side controls the power. That's the dangerous part when you don't have free speech. All sides need a voice. Not all sides have a good idea, but you can hear it. Sometimes you put two ideas together and take a little from others, but you need to hear the ideas and the voices. And then when the people feel like their voice is being suppressed, watch out. Watch out. And that's where I feel like so many conservative voices are being suppressed. And by that, there's no threat. I'm just saying watch out, because you look for means and abilities to move around. If Facebook is suppressing you, then there's newer technology that will keep big companies like Facebook, which is amazing to me, as much as the left that cries about corporations. And Facebook is one of the biggest phenomena as far as stealing information. Well, shouldn't use that word stealing, should I? But you are a product they sell to advertisers, and everything they know about you, they will sell it to the advertisers. And what about new technology that would allow something like Facebook to grow, where you would have control over what people heard about you, and you would make some of the profit off what people is sold about you? I think it's coming around. There's some technology that is going to probably be able to do that. And then maybe everybody just pull the rug out from under Facebook. Let the communists and Marxists have Facebook. Maybe. I don't know what the future will be. But that's why we need to be thinking. That's why you need to be standing up for freedom of speech, no matter if it's not a speech you want to hear. You stand up for freedom of speech in America. It's in the Constitution, and that's what's made America great. We hadn't always had eloquent speakers, hadn't always heard what we want to hear. There's some nasty things that are going on in America, but we got to be open, transparent, and let people have freedom of speech. Now, let me just end this by saying America has so much potential. You can't always look back to the past. We need to learn from the past. But like we've had shows about cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, there's a future out there that's moving fast, but the conservatives need to grasp it and know it better than anybody else, and move it forward in a way that will make America great. Not only make America great again, but make America the best it's ever been. And as far as Crypto Corner, I hope you listened to last week's show. If we had Dr. James Stroud on, and he talked about his own cryptocurrency that he helped fabricate and make a token called Stealth. And if you hadn't listened to that show, go back and listen to that. But he told us the overall picture, and we've had Brock Pierce on. And again, I want you to be more comfortable with the term cryptocurrencies. You don't have to go buy it. I'm not recommending things. I'm just saying understand it, because there's so much out there that we are moving into, and I want conservatives not to be afraid and not to be totally ignorant of the new technologies that are coming out with the blockchain technology. Learn something about it. You don't have to know it inside and out. No one person can know it inside and out. But I do say, learn more about it. Listen to that show last week and the one before we had with Brock Pierce. Go back in the archives, because they gave us some overall pictures. You won't understand every term maybe, but just know enough to know that we are moving into a situation in America that has great potential. If we just could get Joe Biden out of office or get the Democrats out of control, we have potential that's unbelievable in America, as long as we don't let the socialists and Marxists take control. So hang in there, America. Doc Holliday is with you, and we will work together, and we will not let the Marxists and socialists take over the last best hope on earth. God bless you. See you next week.
Thanks for joining us today, and remember to listen again next week for another edition of Doc Holliday's Rock-Splitting Politics. You can order Ed's new book, Bedrock Truths, by clicking on the book cover right in front of you on the screen, or visit DocHolliday.org. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.